Joker 2. No. No. That is right, nerds. We are finally into season 3, or I guess season 2 on the audio, because I've been doing the video longer than the audio. Either way, welcome to the new season of your favorite nerd news headlines show. I am Dustin. In today's show, we're going to be talking about Sony buying Bungie. We're going to be talking about a couple of new music videos in the music section. We have a Darth Maul rumor getting a new source, and honestly, a whole bunch of great stuff to kick off the new season. So, before we get into that, we do have some housekeeping to take care of. First thing up in housekeeping is the address of the stream from last Friday. I don't know, there was some sort of technical issue that I have not been able to ferret out. So, that being said, this Friday we will not be streaming until I can ferret that out. So, we will return to our regularly scheduled stream next Friday, which means we will be doing the live news in the first half and then some gaming in the second half. So if you're interested in either of those, you can join the live conversation with me on Generally Nerdy, the channel on YouTube, or you can just sit back and watch me lose at Halo. Either way, I would love to have you around, so come check that out on Friday. Not this Friday coming. Let's check the calendar. What day of the week is that? So not the 4th, but the 11th is when we will be returning to our regularly scheduled Friday programming. I do believe that is all of the regular behind-the-scenes housekeeping. We do have now shout-outs to get to. So let's talk in the shout-out section. We're going to kick things off with the Instagram shout-outs. Instagram, we have a few shout-outs. So Toasty Studios _ thank you very much for the follow. Red Lighting 0824, thank you very much. 24 Jamie _ Hughes, Ugly Kid _ Duck, and Fran Dancer 8. Thank you very much, nerds, for the follow on Instagram. It is at Generally Nerdy is the place to follow, where you can get the reels and some unique content for the Instagram. You can go check all of that out. Again, at Generally Nerdy is the name. So now let's talk about the new TikTok followers. Hello, TikTok nerds. We're getting into shout-outs for you guys. I know some people are getting a little antsy because they haven't heard their name on the TikTok channel yet. So here we go. We have Paradox Realism, BF4NL Pam RE, Board on TikTok 2. That means there's another Board on TikTok channel. Pooper 5000 version 3, The Pixel 64, Shut the Fuku 19. We have Roger Isleys Jr. Eyeless Jr. Did I say that wrong? CP _ Goku 0. Thank you very much, TikTok nerds, for the follow. Once again, on TikTok, we are also at Generally Nerdy. You can find there. Not a whole lot super unique to the TikTok, but seems to be one of the more popular platforms. So definitely throw a follow my way if you want your shout out. Then we're going to get into YouTube shout outs. Now, YouTube is a unique beast in that if you subscribe to either the Clips channel or the regular channel on the YouTube, it doesn't tell me unless you have certain settings set to public. I don't know exactly what those settings are because I've never had the issue. I've never had to ferret it out, but I will try and ferret it out sometime in the next couple of weeks and then let you guys know. If you are subscribed on the YouTube and you have followed within the last few weeks, I see that you're following me. I see that you're subscribing, but it doesn't tell me who you are, so I apologize. So we don't have any subs to shout out, even though we do have new ones. We do, though, have some comments to shout out. We have commenters Guilherme Silva commented on the Slipknot Chapeltown Rag reaction first impression video. Totally agree with you, dude. It's a great freaking track. I can't believe that Slipknot is a top 40 band and they can put out music like that. It's amazing. We also have Dante the Mexican Samurai was commenting on the Boondock Saints news video, just letting people know where the Boondock Saints news kicks in. Thank you very much, dude. I do try to get those timestamps, though I am not usually successful with that, so I appreciate the helping hand. Then we have Jackson Todd talking about the leaked Stormfall helmet on Halo over on the Shorts channel. Appreciate the clarification there, Jackson. And then we have In the Mind of David commenting on Psychosexual's Baby on Fire video. Yeah, I don't know what the thought process was behind that, but if you're accurate, then I do feel like that's even more pathetic than I initially thought. But either way, thank you very much, nerds, for the interactions. And now let's move right along. We will be rounding things out with the new Twitter followers. We only have one Twitter follower here, and that is Toasty Studios. There's a reason why Toasty Studios and Kamudogu over the last week or so have both followed me. Again, big announcement for that coming soon. But if you wish to follow me on the Twitters, that one's a little different than the rest. It is generally _nerdy because somebody else had generally nerdy even though they're not using the account. Either way, that is how you find me on the Twitters. And that is our shout-out section for this episode. Still trying to figure out what the heck is going on with Getter and Gab. I am on both of those, so if you wish to follow me there, I do post some of the news while I'm researching on those platforms, so you can find me again at Generally Nerdy on both of those, as well as Facebook at Generally Nerdy Photo, or Generally Nerdy Gaming, all of which are, you know, just what I just said. So that is the shout out section. Let's move right through into music news. We're starting things off with a follow-up. This is one that we kind of briefly touched on when it was initially announced, and this is kind of some interesting progress. So what this is pertaining to is Marilyn Manson and Kanye West. Now, we kind of sort of touched on Kanye's last record a little bit. We definitely touched on, to not be inappropriate, we touched on the Marilyn Manson news when it broke ever so briefly, just letting you know I wasn't going to necessarily be talking about that because that's not what we're trying to get across on the channel. But interesting development between these two. So on Kanye West's last record, Donda, Marilyn Manson contributed some vocals to it. Kanye is kind of helping redeem Manson's image, which is a very strange sentence to say. Manson has even been seen in videos in Kanye's church videos, which is also very strange sentence to say. And now he's going to be contributing even further to Kanye's next album, which is going to be titled Donda 2. I believe I'm saying that correctly. It's not just going to be vocal contributions. He's going to produce a couple of tracks with Kanye, and sounds like they're both also going to be doing vocals on a few of these tracks together as well. So really interesting, like, at this point, I believe that Kanye West is a ship that cannot sink in spite of itself. So really cool that he's giving a fellow giant artist a chance to redeem himself. Even though the public eye does not want to give Manson that chance, Kanye sees the artist, sees the man behind the shock and is doing the right thing. Not the biggest Kanye West fan for a number of reasons, but I can totally respect this move. That's what we have for follow-ups for music. Now let's get into the new music. We're going to be doing a couple of first impressions and one that I am reserving for a proper reaction video. So our first piece of new music is a super awesome announcement on top of a super awesome new song release and the announcement of a new record. So Scott Kelly is a dude who does the thing with Neurosis. He's actually one of the primary actors in the Neurosis band. He is one of the primary songwriters. He definitely carries the Neurosis torch. and has a boatload of side projects as well. We've actually talked about a number of his side projects. He is now doing another side project. The name of that side project is Absent in Body. They're putting out a record called Plague God March 25th. The drummer for this side project is none other than Igor freaking Cavalera, Max Cavalera's brother, also played drums for Sepultura. This new track is not what I expected considering the Igor element. Like, this is very much a Scott Kelly track. This is very much something that could exist in the same plane as anything Neurosis has done for the last 2-3 decades. So that was expected. But Igor's contributions, according to some of the reviews I've read for the entire album, or EP, I guess, it sounds like Igor definitely contributes a little more of that sound in other tracks, but this track is very much 8 minutes of just atmosphere and darkness. And if you are into Neurosis, if you're into that kind of challenging music, not necessarily challenging because it's so technical, but challenging because of the darkness that it exists inside it, this is the track that you need to check out. I cannot recommend this enough. This is heavy music in a very confrontational yet understated way at its best. And our next song, the next song we're talking about, the next new piece of music, is actually our first taste of Meshuggah's new album. So they also have announced that the name of the record will be Immutable. The name of this song is The Abysmal Eye, and the Immutable record is coming out April 1st. I have not yet listened to this song because this is the song we're going to be doing a proper reaction for. I have not been able to do a proper Meshuggah reaction yet at all, and this is one of my favorite bands, so stay tuned to the main YouTube channel for the Meshuggah reaction video, because that will happen. All of that being said, you now know that it exists and it's a thing that you can go check out, and then you can contribute to the conversation when we do that reaction video. So let's move right along. We have one more song we're going to be talking about in the new music section of the music section, and that is Papa Roach. Yeah, so Papa Roach is still around, and they apparently, so this is a really interesting thing, like the state of the music industry being what it is, everyone is kind of switching to this singles first, albums second kind of model, and Papa Roach has kind of done that very thing with this recording cycle. So they recorded 3 standalone, what were presumed to be, for a while at least, standalone tracks. This is the 3rd of those 3 standalone tracks. Now they're saying there is a record that is in the works, and it should be expected to be released later this year at some time. This new Papa Roach song is called Stand Up, and I can appreciate the attempt to do something uplifting, because that is not something we get a whole lot of in the modern aggressive music scene. Unless your name is Jamie Josta or Howard Jones or Jesse Leach, you probably aren't doing a whole lot of super uplifting lyrics. So I appreciate what Jacoby Shaddix is trying to do with this song. I was a passive fan of Papa Roach when they first came out with the Infest record. I bought it, I listened to it probably a little bit more than I'm willing to admit to, and then kind of forgot about them for a long time until Jacoby Shaddix threw shade at Fred Durst, because Fred changed the way he wanted the media to write the name of his band when they're talking about Limp Bizkit. And Jacoby Shaddix used to go by Kobe Dick, so I don't know, it was just a thing that I thought was incredibly ironic and quite hypocritical. So that was kind of, oh yeah, this is still a band, and ever since then they've kind of been on this periphery for me. And so the new song is groovy. Let's talk about the positives first. So the new Papa Roach song definitely has a groove. You can't help but bob your head to it. the delivery feels like Imagine Dragons very, very, very much. I understand Atreyu, which is another one of my favorite bands, had a song for a moment that sounded a lot like that as well, but that's not indicative of the entire record that came out on. This is kind of indicative of the direction that Papa Roach has been going for some time. So it was kind of expected it was going to sound like this. And now he's trying to rap again. Like, there's so much weird about this. The production is kind of half-assed. Like, the instrumentation is way buried down underneath the drums. The vocals are sitting way too dominant in the mix. It just sounds bad all over. If you're a fan of Papa Roach, you probably love this. Also, you're probably a 16-year-old girl. I am neither of those things. So yeah, I can't recommend this song. We're going to keep on going. All right, so we have no real news to speak of, no just non-new music, non-tour news. So we're going to jump over now to tours, and we have a couple of things to talk about. First is Kittie. Kittie has announced that they actually will be doing this strange When We Were Young festival thing in Las Vegas. Also, through the research for this topic, I found out that it is not going to be, in spite of what Finn McKenty said on his channel, the When We Were Young concert is actually going to be a festival. It's going to be a 3-day event, and it sounds like Kittie is putting together kind of a couple of key players for this, for their appearance on set. Just an interesting kind of blast from my past. Did not see their name on the list, but the list is longer than my arm, so it's kind of easy to miss those kind of other bands that aren't still kind of relevant. Like, Kittie hasn't been super relevant in the conversation since 12 years ago at the very shortest. So yeah, just interesting that that we'll be hearing some Brackish and Spit and all that kind of stuff on the When We Were Young stage. Figured I'd share. There's it sounds like also that there are potential plans to go on the road with this new lineup. Nobody really notable aside from Mercedes and Morgan in the lineup, though it is an all-female lineup once again, in spite of the fact that back when they were at their peak, they had it was all females plus one. Their lead guitar player was a dude with a giant beard, and he was kind of a badass when I saw him live. Anyway, so that is our first piece of tour news. Our second piece of tour news is Furnace Fest. Now, old school hardcore types are going to recognize this name. If you are just getting into the aggressive styles of music, or you kind of have been dabbling there for a while, you might recognize the name because it did happen last year. But before it happened last year, it was 17-year hiatus for this festival. Well, it's coming back, and it's very noteworthy that it's coming back this year because it is going to be featuring on stage the reunion of one of the greatest bands of the new wave of American heavy metal, Shadows freaking Fall. So it is happening in Birmingham, Alabama, September 23rd through September 25th of this year. Other bands that are going to be on the bill. They've only announced the first round. There is presumably going to be at least one, probably two more announcements for bands. But so far, we are looking at The Ghost Inside, Alexis on Fire, Newfound Glory, The Acacia Strain, Anti-Flag, Earth Crisis, Elliot, The Joy Formidable, Kubala Khan, Texas, Nothing, Shadows freaking Fall, Stretch Armstrong, and Strike Anywhere. That is already shaping up to be an amazing hardcore and metal festival. Like I said, September 23rd through the 25th of this year in Birmingham, Alabama. That is a little bit more of a mouthful. Yeah, super excited for that. As they announce more bands, we'll probably be keeping tabs so you can come back here for more. That being said, we have one last piece of tour news, and that has to do with AFI on tour. AFI had to reschedule their tour. They just put out the Bodies record last year, which I have mixed feelings about. I feel better about this one than the Blood album, so there's that. I feel like Burials was a little bit better, and it's never going to touch anything they put out pre-December Underground. But It's a pretty decent record if you're kind of going for the overall feel, especially if you like the kind of 80s tinged, almost gothy kind of pop rock, then this is the record for you. But they did have to reschedule the tour. It is still happening this year. It's just moving from spring, summer to fall, winter-ish. So March 25th will be the first date on the tour, going all the way through December 3rd. Again, stateside. It's pretty extensive. You can check the link in the description for tickets if you so desire. And that is all of our regular stuff. And now, since we are into a new season, we are trying something new with the sections, and that is suggestions. These are the nerdy suggestions for the music section for this episode of the Week in Nerdom. So our first suggestion in music is a YouTube video that goes by the name of "What If Metallica Sounded Like Slipknot?" Very intriguing thought. The end result is probably a lot better than you're anticipating using those two band names, so definitely worth a watch. And then our other suggestion is going to be a classic suggestion, and that is the album Watershed by Opeth. This is one of the few records that I wish I had written myself because it is so perfect. So if you are not familiar with Opeth, you start with Watershed and then work in either direction and you're going to be super happy. If you move forward in time, then you're going to be getting bombarded with kind of 70s prog throwback rock. If you move backward in time, then you're going to be bombarded with some crazy aggro, kind of deathy, I don't know how you would subcategorize it, Opeth, but they're definitely a metal band and it's awesome. Those are our suggestions for the music section. All of that, now we're moving into gaming and tech, and we do have some follow-ups here as well. We're going to start first with Halo Infinite. We have definitely been keeping tabs on Halo Infinite because that is currently the obsession of mine, so why wouldn't we? But so now we have a new update on the Big Team Battle situation. They did release what they thought was going to be a hotfix a couple of weeks ago. It really, by and large, did nothing for Big Team Battle. So now they're saying the earliest that we could be seeing our next hotfix is, as you're watching and or listening to this, tomorrow, Thursday, the 4th. But very likely it won't actually happen until the following week because they have to go through all of the checks and such with Microsoft. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that those issues that you're having with your cosmetics and the Cyber Showdown perks, the armor perks and such, not lining up, well, that's going to stay like that until Season 2, apparently. According to developers with 343, they just can't afford to take the time away from developing Season 2 in order to fix something that is really just a cosmetic issue. So they're going to fix that after the launch of Season 2, which is, we all know, is still about 4 months out, which sucks, but that is what it is. And then we have another follow-up. This time we're talking about, it's a tech follow-up, and it's Spotify. Now, we talked previously about this in the music section. Well, it's kind of evolved a little beyond the music, so now it's just Spotify and Joe Rogan and versus basically everyone else. So since we last talked, not only has Neil Young's music been removed from Spotify, and it sounds like, depending on which version of the story you're hearing, it sounds like potentially Spotify removed his music, Neil Young's music, before Neil actually pulled the trigger and said he wanted to remove his music, so I found that pretty interesting. But also joining the ranks, amongst others, we have Joni Mitchell, Exiled, Sebastian Bach, and a bunch of news personalities that really have nothing to do with the situation, so whatever. But interestingly enough, we have a couple of pretty high-profile backers for Joe Rogan's stance on the thing. So David Draiman, The Rock, and Tulsi Gabbard, one-time presidential candidate, all getting behind Joe Rogan. And again, there are plenty others. Those are just kind of the biggest names that I saw in the list on either side. And it's very interesting. I mean, obviously Ted Nugent is also behind Joe Rogan because Ted Nugent gets behind all these kinds of things. But so I'm going to restate what I said in the previous episode. Joe Rogan does not spread information be it good or bad necessarily at all, unless you're talking about health, in which he's very well versed, or MMA, also in which he's very well versed. Aside from that, he brings on professionals, he brings on experts, and he asks them questions. So if their conclusions, if their answers don't align with certain narratives, then it's being touted as misinformation. But nobody talks about all of the other guests that he's had on his show who are absolutely saying you need to get the vaccine, who are absolutely saying that you need X, Y, and Z that aligns with the narrative. And now Joe has come out and said he did not apologize exactly. He's come out and said that he's going to try harder to balance his conversations, whereas he's going to have these more controversial figures on, and then the immediate or sometime within the general vicinity of that episode, he's going to have a counter argument come on. Somebody who is also an expert in that same field, who has a different conclusion or who aligns differently politically, is going to come on and make the alternate point. And then that's probably going to make for even better programming on the Joe Rogan podcast, because I would imagine it's going to lead to more actual debate and more actual conversation, because what's happened with him in the past when it comes to diet issues, very specifically, he's had experts come on and say that a vegan diet is not the best idea for you, and he's had experts come on and say that a vegan diet is the only idea that you need to subscribe to. Those two experts then had a third episode where both came on and got to debate these points, and Joe Rogan is not one to cut his episodes short, so it's a 10 times better platform than what we're going to get on any other outlet. So I think, honestly, in the long run, this is probably a net positive for literally everyone involved, except for maybe Neil Young, but again, who really listens to Neil Young anymore? The average age of Neil Young's fans is not the average age of Spotify listeners. Let's just say that. So yeah, I feel like this is going to honestly be a good thing. I think the censorship element of this is absolutely garbage, and we're going to talk about censorship in the comic book section as well. But just as long as they're not trying to stop Joe from saying things, as long as they're not trying to limit the people that he can have on his show, it's sticky, but it's still, we kind of have to allow it, right? Because it's their platform. So that's where I stand on it. Hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about this, because I honestly think it's a waste of breath, but whatever, we're moving on. So now let's get into actual news. We have something gigantic happening right now. So first we get the announcement that Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard. They saw an opportunity, and good on them for taking it. And now it looks like they're going to clean up that mess as well as capitalize on all the awesome. But now Sony, who is their direct competition, has bought the studio that kind of is responsible for Microsoft's success, Bungie. And they're in a similar state with Bungie as Microsoft is with Activision. It's not 100% confirmed that they're going to be approved for the purchase, but at this point, it's kind of all just a matter of filing paperwork and then making sure the right bureaucrat says yes. So it's pretty much a done deal. There is still possibility that neither of these purchases will actually happen. Not likely though. So this is just amazing. Bungie has said that they will continue to make the Destiny games cross-platform. They will make them for both Microsoft's system and Sony's system, but probably much like we saw with Bethesda and much like we're going to be seeing with Activision Blizzard, anything they develop going forward that is a new intellectual property will be very likely a Sony exclusive. So all of the Bungie fanboys really have to change consoles now. This is such a crazy spot in gaming that let's talk about this one down in the comment section and then move on before my head explodes. Okay, so our final piece before we get into suggestions for the gaming and tech section is a YouTube piece, and YouTube is doing something very strange. So if you remember, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago when they said, oh, we're getting rid of the dislike button because we care about small creators and we don't want to see a bunch of people just dislike bomb the crap out of our small creators because it's bad on their mental state and blah, 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 blah. Insert really garbage excuse excuse here. Well, it seems that YouTube is not all about small creators because they have implemented this new policy that is, if you are a small creator, and what they deem small in this instance is probably something along the lines of 10,000 subscribers or less, maybe 5,000 or less, but still, you know, a fair amount of the people on their platform who are kind of making a little bit of money, but not really noteworthy yet. If you lie in that arena, or even below that, where I find myself currently, then if you post a video that starts to go viral, which, you know, is kind of what we would all want for our channels, because that is one of the ways to ensure that you have a job doing this tomorrow, is virality. Well, it seems that if you blow up too fast, they're going to throttle your traffic. Now, we've only seen this in certain instances, and those certain instances are very specific to things that YouTube doesn't want the world to see necessarily. It seems that there is, if you are going against a certain narrative, which we're not going to specify right here, but if you're going against a certain narrative and you think that, you know, people who drive, we're not going to say it, but then, and you start to get a lot of traffic, then they're going to show you this image, which, if you're listening, I apologize. There is an image right now on the screen that says, "This video is popular." Unfortunately, the channel isn't big, and I'm paraphrasing. Unfortunately, the channel isn't big enough for us to send it out across the entire interwebs, so please subscribe to this creator and help them get the word out, or something along those lines. It's just... Apparently they don't care about small creators, because if they did, why would they be throttling traffic to small channels? That just seems a little weird. Anyway, that's what we have for the section. Now let's get into suggestions for the gaming and tech side of things. So our first suggestion is probably going to be a little obvious, but man, if you are not playing Halo Infinite multiplayer, it's free. If you have an Xbox or even a PC that's capable to do it, and a Steam account, then, or an Xbox Live account, because you don't even need Steam, you just need Xbox Live, then absolutely it is 100% worth it, just for the mind-numbing kind of portions. It's great fun, even if there are a fair amount of flaws and the amount of content is still kind of lacking. Like, there's not a whole bunch of maps or anything yet, but man, is it fun. Please join the fun if you are, again, so inclined. Our next suggestion for this episode is, don't forget about Splitgate, man. They were kind of the underdog for a while, and then Halo actually launched, and people kind of forgot that it happened. Splitgate just launched a new Forge option. You can now create maps in Splitgate. I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to that, because honestly, I saw the announcement and didn't see if it was actually rolled out just yet, because I also have not yet played Splitgate for a minute, but yeah, I will do that. We will probably do that in stream sometime soon. And then our final suggestion for tech and gaming is kind of a tech one. It's a Peter McKinnon video linked down in the description, for all about YouTube Shorts, and he kind of interviews some large, gigantic creators about their take on Shorts and how you could implement them into your process as well. So definitely worth a watch. That is what we've got for suggestions. Let's keep this train a-rolling. Now we're going into comic books, and we actually have stuff to talk about in comic books. I'm super excited about it. Our first piece has to do, and we don't have any follow-ups or anything, so we're just jumping right into the news. The first piece has to do with teas that we've been getting from Marvel. It seems that Marvel Judgment Day is going to be their next big event, much like DC is going to be killing off the Justice League. Marvel is going to be killing mutants, it would seem. So the next big event for Marvel has a lot of people thinking that there is going to be a quote-unquote massive retcon to the mutants, because very specifically some of the promotional materials have this quote in them. For a million years, Earth has been protected from the deviants, but we made a mistake, ... We missed some, the mutants, as attributed to Druig. So here's the thing. Let's grab those reasonably nerdy caps and throw those on real quick, shall we? So, if you remember, the mutants were created by the deviants. It's kind of the roundabout way, if I remember correctly, but there is definitely, I'm not misremembering the fact that the deviants created mutants on Earth. Like, that is part of MCU lore already. So it's really not that quote unquote massive of a retcon to say that there is deviant in the mutants as it pertains to the fact that they were created by the deviants through genetic testing. How is this a retcon? I don't understand. Please, somebody correct me if I am wrong, but the reasonable assumption here is they're going to be expanding on that part of the mythology, not changing that part of the mythology. We're going to learn more about what happened, and probably they're not actually going to kill off anybody in the long run because it's comic books and nobody ever actually dies, except for apparently Alfred right now, which kind of really pisses me off, but that's a whole other situation. Anyway, yeah, so that is our reasonably nerdy moment for the day. You can take those reasonably nerdy cats off. It doesn't make, I don't understand how this is a retcon if it's been that way since Kirby introduced the deviants forever ago. Maybe it wasn't the Kirby run, but either way, it happened like long before this whole woke push. Anyway, moving right along. That is actually our only piece of comic book news. So let's get into suggestions for comic book section. Our suggestions for this episode of your weekly nerdy things. We have our first piece is actually an interesting comic book, not from the big two. I actually don't remember which comic book publication put this out, but Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, the author is Tom Payer. This is such a cool book. Just such a cool book. If you are a Batman fan, if you are a superhero fan that has kind of been appreciative of all of the iterations of the big superheroes, then you definitely should check out Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man by Tom Payer. The other suggestion for this section is Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Squee. People forget that Yonan Vasquez did something amazing in the early aughts, and it's called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. You used to be able to find them at Hot Topic and random other places. Oni Press is the publication house that did it, and yeah, it's absolutely worth a read. Go check it out. And Squee, related to that, definitely check that one out as well. So that's our suggestions for comic books and books. Let's move into TV streaming. TV streaming is tiny, I'm not gonna lie, but there's some really great stuff, so stick around. And then we've got all of our rumors and movies and such. So our first piece, follow up, we just have the announcement that Fall of the House of Usher, which is the next Mike Flanagan series on Netflix, has gone into principal photography, so we're super excited about that because Flanagan is doing wonderful things on the Netflix right now. And then we have a trailer to get out of the way, and that trailer is the Halo series trailer for Paramount Plus. March 24th is when it launches the first episode. I believe it is going to be a weekly situation. That's how Paramount has been doing things. Man, between this, 1883, and Yellowstone, Paramount is doing wonderful things right now. So yeah, I also have heard things about great things about Mayor of Kingstown, and I haven't watched that one yet, so I can't speak to it. But wow, lots of fantastic. Let's get into the Halo trailer real quick. This looks awesome. Like just the actual weight that they gave to the Covenant, the Arbiter looking dudes. I can't remember the specific race that they are, but that little brief clip that we get of Master Chief fighting those guys with the blade, I'm forgetting words. I'm so excited about this. This looks fantastic. I do not see, at least again, I'm not super deep into the Halo lore. I just really love playing the games, but this looks awesome. And that is not an exaggeration. So if you have yet watched it, go watch it 7 times. I've definitely done it at least that many times. It's worth it. We have suggestions now to get out of the way. Let's talk suggestions in the TV streaming section. This is the new section, the new subsection for all of the things. Is we're going to be suggesting things that you should be checking out. First up, Archive 81 on Netflix. If you are into horror and you cannot wait for Mike Flanagan's Fall of the House of Usher, this is definitely worth a look. This is a pretty awesome, unique take on something that we've kind of seen probably a dozen or so times over the last few decades. But again, pretty great take, and the longer format of doing it as episodic content helps the atmosphere breathe and kind of builds that tension much, much better than it could have in an hour-and-a-half movie. So worth a watch. We also have 1883 that I mentioned just a moment ago. 1883 is the prequel series to Yellowstone. It is phenomenal. You should be watching. If you're watching Yellowstone, you have to go watch 1883. It's just required reading at this point. If you're not, maybe start with 1883 if you like Westerns and then progress into Yellowstone. Yellowstone is like ranchers doing Sons of Anarchy, but whatever. And then our final suggestion, and this one might be a little controversial right now, but Book of Boba Fett, man, I am a firm believer that this is a good show. I am probably in the minority, I think, but I don't see this show as a negative when it comes to the Star Wars reputation. I think this is a fantastic addition to that. Yes, I do think they could have done some things better. Yes, I do think the representation of Boba Fett could have been a little bit more badass, but he's still pretty badass in this show. So, that being said, those are our suggestions. Let's keep on rolling, keep on moving into the movie section. We now are getting into movies. Movies is also a little small, but you know, that is what it is. So we have a follow-up on the Fast and Furious series. We do have an announcement that Jason Momoa is in talks. This is not rumor. This has actually been announced. They are courting Jason Momoa to join the franchise. With The Rock kind of on the outskirts, seems like Jason Momoa is a pretty adept or reasonable addition to the casting. The 10th movie apparently is going to take us even deeper into space. I don't even know right now, but yeah, pretty interesting. Jason Momoa, Vin Diesel, gonna potentially John Cena gonna be bros. I got nothing. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, so then we have one trailer to talk about. Okay. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is getting a prequel movie on Netflix, sequel movie on Netflix, where content creator types, I don't even know the proper words for influencers, are going to the town where the house of the family exists, and then Leatherface, and then throwbacks to the original movie, because just why? They're setting this up so that the only character you're going to care about is Leatherface. And so it's like, why am I going to watch? I don't have no, probably won't be watching this movie. Maybe I will, and then we'll just have fun ripping it apart on the channel. I don't know, but as it stands right now, I'm not super stoked on it. That's what we have there. Let's talk about suggestions for the movie section. Suggestions. So the first one is an Amazon Prime movie
called The Tender Bar,
starring Ben Affleck, that I'm honestly very surprised exists in the modern era, because it came out last year, and honestly, there's a lot of stuff that Ben Affleck does in this movie that he's influencing this young child. Kind of seems like it would be categorized by people who want to categorize things as such, as toxic masculinity, but yet it's painted in this fantastic, like, it's a really well done movie. Affleck has remembered that he's a pretty decent actor for this one. Lily Rabe is in it. The kid who played Cyclops in the new X-Men movies is in it. It's pretty well done, not gonna lie. It's also directed by George Clooney, and the soundtrack is kind of amazing, so definitely go check that out. That is what we have for movie section. We're gonna keep things going. We're moving right into the rumor mill. So rumor mill, we have no confirmations, refutations. We do have a new subsection called New Sources. We have a new source about the Darth Maul rumor that we've been talking about. Previously, when we talked about this, it was rumored that there was going to be a Darth Maul IP some point, somewhere, somehow, no real details. Well, now we have a new source saying that the Darth Maul IP is going to be a Disney Plus series for sure, and is also probably going to take place in or around the same time as the Mandalorian series. So interconnections potentially happening if this is real. Still no... I don't know, this is a secondary source, so I guess that kind of is why we're bumping this up a little bit. Before I said it was about 50%, I'm gonna bump this one up to 60% now that we have actually a slightly better source saying that this is going to be a thing. So, moving next, we're talking about Joker 2 is rumored to be going into production later this year because they're said to have a script. Joker 2. No. No, I still don't believe this movie's going to happen. I'm still giving this a low count. This is a little bit higher than I feel comfortable doing because this is, again, not the first time we've heard such things. So Joker 2, 30% likelihood that they are actually going to be going into production sometime soon and that they do have a working script of sorts and that it's actually going to be a thing. Yeah, 30%. Moving right along. Next, we're talking about the Court of Owls. Apparently, there is a new IP that is going to be potentially a series or a movie somewhere done by Warner Brothers that is going to deal with the Court of Owls, which is going to have Talon, the kind of the henchman, the guy who does all of the things for the court, as the kind of sort of anti-hero main protagonist. Don't know exactly what they're going to be doing here, though it is said that it's going to do something along the lines of the original Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. This sounds like a lot of fun. This also sounds like somebody grasping at straws. So either of these things are very potential. That's why we're starting this at 50%. I can't really say one way or the other where this is going. So yeah, middle of the road. That's where it lives. Next rumor we have is Oddworld. This is a video game rumor. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is said to be coming to the PlayStation 4 via the PlayStation Network because, you know, people like to go through files and things that they're not supposed to go through and see things that have been posted but are not yet available to play. That being said, this has been uploaded to the network, to the PlayStation Network. It will be a thing eventually. They haven't made the announcement. It is still possible to delete files before you let people know they exist, so you can't give this 100%. Nothing is ever 100%, but we are going 90% for this one. Then let's talk real quick about more Halo Infinite stuff. Halo Infinite rumors says that there's going to be a Battle Royale mode in Halo Infinite. Everyone keeps saying this. I still can't see enough on either side to push it in any sort of meaningful direction. We are going to bump this slightly up from last time, say 55% likelihood that there is going to be a Battle Royale mode in Halo Infinite. There is a whole bunch of other nerd news and rumors and such that exists out there, nerds, and we talked about it. If you want to go check it out, you should be able to click or tap one of the boxes to the side of my face and see all of the things, or just go check out the Clips channel and see all of the other things we do there. Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, do the things, click the bell. And before we head out, nerds, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.